Hello guys, welcome to another guide from Razorops. Today we'll be talking about how to create a cluster or EKS cluster on Amazon AWS services. So without any delay, let's jump right into the work. So first of all, log into your console management on AWS with whatever your authentications are. And under the services, look for service EKS here and then move back to the page of clusters. And in the cluster page, you'll see a button saying create cluster. Once you click on that, you will land up on this form. So basically any service if we want to create or a resource we want to create will end up in a form, and then we'll fill the form and then create the service. So here in this form, so we have couple of things which we need to mention before we create the cluster. So the important things we need to know here is like there are two main dependencies we need to create the cluster. First is role name, and which will be basically IAM role that will allow Kubernetes control panel to allow your uh, uh, or manage AWS resources basically on your behalf. Next will be VPC, and then you have to create VPC as well, and then which automatically will have subnet, and then it will also have security group which you need to access. Rest of the cases are basically checks which if you need those services you can check, say yes or no. That depends on your requirement. So let's jump into creating a role first. So this is the guide which I will take reference of. There are many other guides like how to create VPC, how to create IAM roles, but this one I find very easy. So it's very long article as well, but I'll go into the very crisp. So instead of going through the console management directly from this services, I would prefer to go from the cloud formations. What it does, it takes a template file and it defines your service name or resources which you want to create, and then you give a name to that service, whatever. For example, if you have IAM role you want to create, then give names accordingly. If you have VPC, then give name accordingly, and it creates a resource for your convenience. So for IAM role, so copy this. Okay, so first of all, come to this page and look for create your Amazon EKS cluster IAM role, and under that click on the cloud formations. Don't go here, click on the cloud formation. Under the cloud formation, copy this template and put it in your local, somewhere in your local. Okay, save this file basically. And then what to do next? Next we'll go to this URL console.aws.amazon.com/cloud formation, which I have already. Okay, I'll just walk you through here. So I already have couple of resources created. So to create the IAM role, you go to create stack and then say new resource. Once you are on this stack, say template is ready and let the default value here as selected. Then we need to say upload a template file. Okay, so here we need to upload the file which we have saved already. Alright, and then you say next, give a stack name, let's say test 1 2 3, then say next, keep everything default here. You don't need to do anything or touch anything, just go next. It will give you review, and then once the review you say okay, select I acknowledge that AWS cloud formation might create IAM resource for me. Okay, so I have already created this step. So just for to give you the overview of like how this works, so you can go through this process. Then you say create stack. It will take a couple of seconds to create the resource, and then we'll end up into having the stack or the required stack. I have already created Razorops test role. I just created recently, and similarly, so basically our role is created here after that cloud formation step. Similarly, we will be creating the VPC for EKS cluster, and it has the same way through the cloud formation, and it is the easiest way. We don't need to download any file or copy paste anything. They have provided directly the S3 URL, which will give reference in the stack while creating the stack. So right now for the beginner, let's go only public subnets. Don't go for as of now for public private network subnet. If you have in detail knowledge about these things, so you can pick based on your requirements. So again, go to the cloud formation and then copy this URL. Remember, this step is for creating the VPC for clusters. Okay, so keep the default option selected itself, and then here we'll add this URL. Okay, and then it will pick, okay, this is the template it has taken, and then we'll say next. Then you define your cluster name, whatever the meaningful name you can have, like cluster for service, whatever the service name you have, whatever the project name you have. So it will automatically define the network configuration subnets. You don't need to alter these values. It's okay and good if we put the default values itself. Then you say next. Then if you want to add tags, you can add tags. You don't need to basically do anything here. Let it go default with the default values. So it is giving you this subnet here, and then VPC block. That's all, and then you say create stack. One stack is created, so make sure you note down the subnet this IDs, and then as well as it has also mentioned the stack name. Okay, so it will create a security group. So just record that security group VPC IDs and subnet IDs. Why? Because we need these three things when we create our nodes inside the EKS. Okay, so once you say create stack, it will create your stack. Now I have already created stacks for me, which is Razorops test VPC as well, just created like few minutes back, so that I don't have to go through the same process again, because it is little time consuming. Once you are done with that, so you come here, you give your cluster name. I'll say Razorops cluster test. Okay, and then pick the version, then pick the role which we just created right now, and this is the VPC which I created right now. It has automatically selected its subnet, which is created just the way through the cloud formation. Then we have a security groups, so you can select security groups according to your needs. So I'm selecting this one which it created right now. If we want to add any further permissions in this security group, you can easily do that to go in the services which will have VPC. Okay, I'll come to that later on. I don't know why it always asks for authentication again and again. So you can look for security groups under the VPC services, and then you can change the permissions accordingly. Rest of the options, if you are in the beginner state, so better to keep these options what with the default values. But if you have little more knowledge, or you think your applications need any of these services like secret encryptions and the logging of what EKS console, the controller or and the schedulers or other API calls are doing, so you can enable the logging, you can add tags, etc. And that's all, and then you say create, and our cluster is getting provisioned. So anyways, this will take a couple of seconds, maybe a minute or so, to provision everything in this cluster. The next article or next guide, we will be going through how to create the config file of this cluster. into our local system where we already have the AWS CLI installed, and then we'll go through that steps, and then the next guide we will also go through how to create the node groups, so that if we want to deploy any application, so we can deploy into the nodes, which will eventually create the pods, and then we will deploy the applications. Thank you guys. If you have any questions, you can let me know.